Do you want me to make a special thing, or you'll just do it?
No, I would love to have this vote today because I've canceled my entire.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the December 18, 2018 regular session meeting of the Joplin Schools Board of Education. Pat, could we have a roll call, please?
Sheriff Dermont.
Here.
Derek Mander.
Present.
Brent Jordan.
Present.
Jennifer Martucci.
Here.
Lori Musser.
Here.
And Dr. Debbie Ford.
Present.
Thank you, Pat. Will everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we've got a little change to our agenda. We're going to remove item F3 from the consent agenda and move that to the regular agenda. And we'll move that to the bottom of it. It'll be the last thing we can. Does anybody else have any other changes to the agenda?
Oh, I did have a question.
Sure.
On those fuel bids, how long does that fuel last us? I'm just curious.
Anywhere from a month to 6-8 weeks.
Is that all?
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That brings us to our celebrations. We got those there? I'll start reading here. Cold Eagles with Warm Hearts. They look awesome. On Saturday, November 10th, in 18-degree weather,
and a good breeze, too.
Over 40 students and 10 teachers participated in Run with the Eagles to support the Joplin Schools Foundation. The 5K and 1 mile run was organized by the Joplin Schools Foundation to kick off their fundraising campaign to purchase security cameras for the district's elementary schools. That is a great fundraising project, and we appreciate the Joplin Schools Foundation for taking a hold of that for us. Joplin Eagles honor our veterans. The students and staff at Cecil Floyd, Columbia, Eastmoreland, McKinley, Soaring Heights, Stapleton, East Middle School, North Middle School, and Joplin High School planned a variety of events to recognize Veterans Day. The recognitions varied at each site, but the message was the same. For your bravery, hard work, and dedication to our country, we thank you. Indeed, we do. Chaos in Fairy Tale Forest. In early December, the Joplin High School Theater Department presented its annual student-directed play, Chaos in Fairy Tale Forest, to 2,000 local students, along with 2 performances that were open to the public. The children's shows are fun projects for the students who endeavor to stay fully animated and in character at all times to engage their audience.
That might be a transportation for, that might be a celebration for transportation as well, because they committed a Herculean effort to get them in and out. It was well coordinated.
We brought the kids here to the high school to watch the play. Adopt a third grader. This is the second year at KCU Joplin, that's the Kansas City University of Medicine and Biosciences, has offered the Adopt a Third Grader program to our students. Recently, third graders from Irving Elementary enjoyed a day at KCU Joplin where first-year medical students took them under their wings while they created crafts, enjoyed a photo booth, toured the medical school, and headed home with a toy medical kit. Might produce a few doctors, who knows? Those are our celebrations. Which brings us to our superintendent's data report.
Yes, and before I give that, we talked about our school foundation, and recently they had some business that they wanted me to share with the board. So applications for the Excellence in Education grants are out now, and those are due by January 22nd, so we're looking for every opportunity to make those announcements. Board officers were selected. President is Gloria Turner. Vice President Kim Woodard. Secretary is Ellen Eastman. Treasurer Gerald McAllister. And they have a new board member, Brian Vowles. So that is the update from our Joplin School Foundation. And next, I think we're going to hear from Dr. Langford for health and dental, followed by financial statements.
Well, I hope you've had a chance to, again, monitor this. We always like to do a comparison between what's happened in the most recent month with the corresponding month prior a year ago. We've been pretty stable. We have noted that in the last month, though not reflected in this statement, we've seen some bigger claims come in, but that's sort of to be expected once you get past the first few days and deductibles of the new plan. But our fund balances continue to be strong. We also the health and dental, or the dental piece. We have a spreadsheet in there. We kind of getting it all unpackaged, and so we showed an expense of $56,000, I believe it was. That will not be a reoccurring because that reflected 2 months, but we're earning interest in both these funds, and at this point in time, we continue to be optimistic about the health plan. We just hope the health of the staff remains good, because that's the most important thing. And if it does, then the plan takes care of itself. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. On the financial report, I continue to reference the single sheet, and it's a comparison of the prior year, and go back and I try to answer questions in my mind as to why this may be up or may be down. But I would say this reflects through the 5th month of this fiscal year, and we are trending along as we had hoped we would. There's nothing out of line of what we see in there. The health fund, or the financial report, looks good. Next month, it will look much better, because actually last week we picked up between Jasper and Newton counties the initial payment of about $5 million of our local property tax, which our local property tax is the biggest contributor to the operation of the schools. Thursday morning, I'm scheduled to go over at 11 o'clock and pick up what will be a sizable amount of money from Jasper County. And we really want to get that before the break so we can get it invested. And then in January, we will get another pretty good sized check. So it's continuing to look good, and we'll continue to monitor it. In the Thursday report last week, I did talk about there are a lot of people that have some concern at the state level because the state revenue is not coming in like it would. There's a lot of discussion, though, it's about the new tax tables that went at the federal level and at the state level. And so we're hoping that between January 1st and conclusion of tax time on April 15th, that little significant deficit will take care of itself, and we will at least continue to have incoming revenues to the state of Missouri, because that's our second largest contributor to the operations of schools. So we do watch that very, very closely. The only other thing I want to talk about or just mention, and I don't know how much you reference, but we compacted the balance sheet that you see, and there were some things that really, because it went back to the days of the accrual system that Joplin used and a few school districts around the state, other school districts here in Jasper County. But for various reasons, we reverted back to the cash basis. So some of the things that were listed as inventory, which really are meaningless, we took off there. We talked to our auditors, and they really didn't know why we had them there to start with. And so Shelley and I, on this balance sheet, it's one single page instead of a page and a half. And to make it work, they would list an asset of the total debt of the school to offset the liability of the total debt of the school. So you could wind up with the same number we're winding up by just by getting that distraction out of there. And so if you have any questions, I'd be glad to show you both things of what we've done. But the important thing, we're a cash basis school district, and the cash account on both sheets are the same. It's just that we took some of the clutter out of that, so it should be a little bit more readable and make a little bit more sense to you. I would get confused sometimes tracking how many, the inventory of library books and textbooks and things like that really are not germane to the operation of the school district, because we're not selling stock. If you have any questions beyond that, I'd be glad to respond.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Langford?
And there is no enrollment report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Moss. So that brings us to public comments. Do we have any this evening? Thank you, Pat. So we're on our consent agenda, and remind everybody that is an amended agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Regular agenda. Prime contract change.
Okay, as you know, we have been working to try to make sure that we do a good job of utilizing the funds that were made available to us by the city and the CDGB grant, thankfully, to kind of enhance the facility over at the Early Childhood Center to ensure that we're, in a situation where we can long-term really utilize the facility to help feed the kids without just having to satellite all the food in. So to do that, we had to sit down with the architect and Crossland Construction, who was the contractor, and we were allowed to be able to make sure that we used a seamless approach that way. But we have some cost figures that we want to make sure that we go over with you and you understand to the best of our ability what they infer when it comes to expanding the kitchen. And I know Rick Kinkle is extremely happy that we're looking at adding on the kitchen. So Dave is here and Aaron Hite is here from Crossland Construction, and they're going to explain these numbers.
As Dr. Siketa said, we want to work forward in an effort to serve our students to the best of our ability, and we believe that placing the kitchen at our Joplin Early Childhood Center is going to be a fantastic thing for the near future as well as for the long-range future of our student. We are bringing to you this evening a PCCO for $232,717.33. And we're bringing that recommendation to you. And Eric, you have to give you the overall picture and the scope. We have broken this down as to the current cost that we've incurred and the total scope of the project, including the CDBG funding. And as you see that up there, that's pretty good, pretty small print. But the grant funding is $259,854.26. The overall project with everything incurred will be $379,891.16. So the district will be accounting for that ending balance there of $120,000, just a little over $120,000 as it's listed there.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, you put the short, I told Brian.
No, other way. Wrong way. Other way.
He can't see it on his laptop screen, so.
So, can I ask a question yet or not yet?
One more.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
So, Dr. Langford, where would that extra $120,000 come from? I know capital projects, but what, and I'm not doubting the necessity of this project at all, but what are we giving up to get that?
When we look at what we anticipate in the capital projects fund this year, we did not budget all of the revenue that will be placed in there this year. So you always want to leave yourself some cushion, because we looked at what buses and the computers, and $2 million, just under $3 million, and we had about 3.5. So we still have the capacity to adjust this the amount for the capital projects fund without taking away other commitments that we had.
Okay.
And the, you know, I think everybody was a little bit, it costs more when you go back and restart a project. If you've been doing it while everybody was on site and the equipment's there, you don't have that setup cost. So I asked Dave, what is that? And I get it. I understand that. But still, the fact is, I guess it's going to cost us something, but the 200 and some thousand that we get, that's, you know, to spend $1 and get $2 for each one you spend. Considering it's a brand new building, it's going to be used for a long time. So we can handle that adjustment.
And is that a cost, and I guess this might be a question for Rick, that would be recovered through food services, the services that you provide at that site? Would some of that cost be recouped by the district through your programs?
That's my understanding, that the $120,000 would probably be recouped from the food service budget and not probably the capital outlay project. That's the way I understood it.
It would require a transfer, but we have to look at all the numbers. And you take a look at what food service does in their program of the money that they have at the end of the year that they did not spend. It's a real tribute to
Yeah,
them.
and I might add, I think Jennifer was asking a different question. Maybe not. I think she was saying by adding a kitchen to that facility, we are saving money by not having to provide food service to it from a remote location. And so there's an expense to that as well.
Right.
And that,
we won't have to pay somebody
just
to transport the food back and forth.
Correct.
House the food at a different location.
So we would anticipate some cost savings in that respect that might help.
Yes.
Even further justify what is clearly a necessary expense.
And not everything's going to be prepared on styrofoam or served on styrofoam trays. You know, we will have a dishwasher there to recycle lunch trays. So, you know, there's a savings there. Some of those, yes.
Yes, and I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but I kind of thought that's where you were coming from.
I mean, that's it's just so, that's, I think your programs, I know your programs are income for the district as well, and so that's just by expanding your services there, that's going to help recover some of that as well.
Yes,
right?
it should.
That was my question, yeah.
So Crossland Construction,
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I didn't.
you're going to stay firm there, right? I mean, there's not a lot of
There's not a lot of wiggle room.
There's
but
not a lot of wiggle
As we
room.
found out from the original
That's
project,
right.
there is still an unforeseen soil.
So will there be an additional wall put up for are there
No.
new walls coming up?
No,
or is
we had
this?
to take down the initial wall, and due to Liberty Utilities.
Talking about retaining wall. Is that-
No, I'm asking
Building.
is
Building
the
walls?
original skeleton, the
Structure.
original exterior of the building going to remain the same? The
Are we
footprint?
adding on?
No, we'll be adding an additional 600.
That's what I was asking. So that we are adding
To
on.
move that
Yes.
box.
I've made my comments.
So is that where the unknown would be, is in that
Soil.
expanding out that part of the building
There
and
is a
what's
small
underneath
amount of
it?
unknown, yes.
When you say small,
Well, it's only a 600 square foot addition, so it's not like we're adding on 4,000 or 40,000.
It's 20 by 30,
20 by
thereabouts.
30.
It's important to get it done, so.
And the dig over that we did was somewhat in that area.
Yeah, there's an additional 5 foot of overdig through the initial project, which we know that's going to be cut out of that 600 square feet, so that's going to help.
Great.
So you're dealing with really a 15 by 30 foot section is all we're dealing with.
Thank you. Well stated. I understand what you just said, I think.
I would make a motion that we approve this contract change.
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved by Lori and seconded by Derek that we approve this contract change. Does anybody have any additional questions for our panel?
Last question,
Sure.
or I guess clarification, is this is being brought as a change order because we are, what was, like,
We are essentially
Tagging on to the
extending
original-
contract rather than rebidding it as a
Right.
new project,
Right.
which would be additional cost to the project. So we're just continuing the process that we have. We were given an extension on this additional money from CDBG that will allow us to work within the timeline to get it finished and still have access to all that money.
Right, okay.
The
Yeah.
grant funding.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear, yeah.
No,
Okay.
that's great. I'd ask that you please vote.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Yes. Good luck.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So that brings us to our accounts payable, Dr. Langford.
Again, you've been given access as far as on your computers and as far as all the information on the accounts payable. When we take a look at the financial report, and we look at the expenditures to date, year to date, and then we go back and we look at our accounts payable, what we see on the accounts payable list sort of affirms what we've shown you on the expenses. However, some of these things are not yet reflected because we're approving things that were after the 30th. But when we go back, what I always do is go back and look at what corresponding months and what our expenditure patterns were in the prior year. And we align very, very closely with where we were last year on the 5.4 million. I think we were 5.1 million on the total bill. So every expenditure is listed on the computer information that you have, and I'd be glad to try to respond to questions.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Does anybody have any questions concerning our accounts payable? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move that we pay the bills in the amount of $5,532,451.96.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been
I'll
moved.
second.
Seconded by Derek. There being no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Cecil Floyd Chromebook Purchase. Dr. Saketa, we're back to you, my friend.
Okay, we have two people that can talk a lot more exclusively and detailed about this here, which would be Chris Bozarth, the principal of Cecil Floyd, and of course Eric is here. As you know, we've been purchasing Chromebooks across the district to try to a lot of the schools with some of the Title I money and try to really push down some of the technology to the younger students and also refresh some of the machines they have for state testing. And we're up to the point, because of a lot of the purchases, that we're getting close to one-to-one, meaning one device for every student in a lot of the schools. And Chris, you want to talk about what you're trying to do with these
Sure,
machines?
absolutely. So we've actually, this being my third year, the first 2 years we purchased through our Title I funds and through our PTA. We did some iPads year one. Last year we did quite a bit of Chromebooks and got one-to-one with our fifth grade. And then we added some devices for our third and fourth grade classes. We're kind of in a spot now where with the new Zern curriculum that we're using with the Eureka Math, we're trying to share devices with our K-1-2 classes, and we try to do some carts. You know, our computer lab is now mobile. Problem with that is the size of our building going from our first grade hallway to our kindergarten, and trying to, the logistics of sharing that and making that work is not happening very well for us. And so teachers came to me and said, hey, can we add some more devices depending on what our budget is? As we looked at what our budget numbers were, really we had the wiggle room within our budget this year to go ahead and purchase enough to go one-to-one. So what we're proposing to do is take the iPads we have, move those all to kindergarten. And so kindergarten will have the iPads exclusively. And so this expenditure will do Chromebook. They're touchscreen Chromebooks for first grade and second grade. And then some additional non-touchscreen Chromebooks for third and fourth grade, which would go ahead and make everybody, each grade level be one-to-one.
How many is that buying?
It's a little over like 250, something like that. So we've bought over 300 devices the previous 2 years. So this just kind of finishes that up. And it also helps replace, we had a lot of the old desktops in our fifth grade rooms, and we have one third grade class that still has those, and each day they're starting to check out on us. And so that also eliminates some of that older, and we're using those still as a supplemental thing for now, but kind of updating some of that technology as well.
I think it's great. I think a couple of months ago, we approved to buy more.
Yes, we did.
Did we purchase more for their school at that point?
I'd have to go back and look, Deb. I don't remember that off the top of my head.
I thought those were for other,
I thought it
like
was-
McKinley.
The only thing we purchased was McKinley. They gave us MacBook Airs to help out the high school, so I didn't have to purchase there, and we replaced 2-to-1 Chromebooks for them. when they did that, but since they already had a high number, when we did that, we did not replace them. We did West Central, Royal Heights, Eastmoreland, and another school.
Okay, so it was a couple months ago when, because I had gone over and observed the math lesson being taught, and you had presented the fact that you realized we needed more Chromebooks across the district.
Right, because we've given a lot of discretion to each of our campuses and how they spent the title funds.
Right.
But it was time because of the curriculum to true up, even though choice had kind of got them to that point.
Right.
That was before we had fully adopted Eureka. So we took care of that to be equitable for our math.
Okay.
But this further enhances technology at Cecil Floyd.
I would just add, it's supplemental because with what you already have, basically needs assessment for title, because this is for title funds. And so through their building needs assessment, they determined that this is the way they want to spend their funds as supplemental to what they already have.
So all the schools are pretty equitable now as far as the Chromebooks?
Well,
getting there.
there's a difference between adequacy and equity. They're adequate, but we do have some that have more than others. And again, it's because of title allocations and how they've chosen to spend the money versus maybe staffing and other discretion that they have with their funds.
But they all have the same opportunity to spend
Yes.
And in reality, Eric, I think across the board what I'm hearing is it's getting pretty close to one-to-one in most of the schools just by default here.
If they're not one-to-one, I mean, I wouldn't say they're 2-to-1, but it's just over 1-to-1.
Yeah. So what I think what you're seeing is access in the lower grades all the way up to 5th grade for a lot of opportunities for kids to work, the teachers to, use technology in the classroom as they see fit.
In the kindergarten?
Chromebooks for Cecil Floyd.
I would second.
Jennifer moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead, Ken.
Dr. Ford seconds. Discussion. Dr. Ford, did you have something else you
I
wanted to
lost my question.
I'm sorry. Kindergarten. Jennifer.
Oh, kindergarten. In the new math program, do kindergartners need access to the Chromebooks also?
Well, actually, so the iPads will do the same thing for Zern. So the biggest drawback that we had with our younger grades is they wanted something they had ease of access, because a lot of the younger students trying to log into like their email address and things like that doesn't work as well. But we found some workarounds through the Chromebooks, but the iPads are app-based, so we can do that through the apps for our kindergarten students. So they will do the same thing.
So each classroom has access to that then?
Yes, ma'am.
Whether it's they have their own set or maybe on a shared cart and they rotate the cart
Correct.
through
But
math time?
this will actually get us to, we have enough iPads that what we had in 1st and 2nd grade will just move down to kindergarten, and they'll have one-to-one iPads in the kindergarten as well.
So that's for your building, but are we one-to-one in every building, or do you know?
No, not
we're
quite.
close, but we're not.
Okay.
But with that last purchase, like you mentioned, that brought some of them that were lower,
I don't
like
think it's
Royal
been
Heights.
articulated as
They were lower,
well.
because they had gone with some reading, their title money, and so with that last purchase, that helped bring some of those.
Yeah, closer to one.
Closer.
Closer.
It's not there, we're still looking at that.
Okay.
How we're going to continue to grow that.
So we do have a motion and a second. Pat, are you clear on where that is?
Yes.
Great. I would ask that you vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bozard. Ms. Chris.
Thank you.
That brings us to FTC Course Changes. Dr. Gilbert.
Yes, so FTC is looking at adding 2 additional courses, and that is one to bring in a manufacturer person, and one that will work with the early childhood. And so Dave, I'll see you have a little, give you some information about that.
Yes, we have two new programs we're proposing, and I'm going to let Elsie Morris talk about our early childhood professions. She's taken the lead on that. We've been glad to have Elsie in the fold this year. She started in with us in the fall and has really kind of taken the lead on working with apprenticeships and the Early Childhood Professions program. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about that one, and then I'll talk about manufacturing.
Well, I have attended several of the Chamber of Commerce functions, and we have seen the need for early childhood professionals, and apparently there's a shortage in this area. I've prepared just a brief overview to kind of give you some idea of why we felt that this was a good idea. Nationally, we see the trends that this particular area is growing faster than most other job opportunities at 10%. Here in the state, it ranked number 16 on growth, and then here in the Joplin area, in the last couple of years, we've had over 1,100 openings in child development areas. So we see the need. We have the available space at Franklin Technology Center. We already have child development 1 and 2 in the high school, and our sending schools also have child development, and they all have daycares, early childhood centers where our students could actually do their clinicals. So it's just the perfect storm for this to come in right now. So we just ask that you consider it, and we're really excited about this opportunity.
And anytime we add a new program, it'll be based on enrollment.
Yes.
We feel good about enrollment for this program. It's probably been maybe 9 years ago or thereabouts. We had put in for an expansion at one time with Bessie and had early childhood on it. And then that was froze by the governor at that time, so we weren't able to do that. And then tornado, that's history. But with the new Early Childhood Center, it's really a prime time for this. And we think it'd be popular among the students as well as in the community. So.
Where will you house the program?
The actual classwork will take place at Franklin Technology Center, and the clinicals will be done either at Head Start, the Early Childhood Center, or our sending schools daycares in their districts.
It'll operate a lot like our CNA program does, where they do the classroom at Franklin Tech and then do their clinical on the outside. So.
Right.
Then on manufacturing, it's unique in that we've had a lot of requests from manufacturers to try to get something started. And it's one that we're going to have to develop the student base. So it's kind of unique in that standpoint. You know, we're not going to have huge numbers starting out. We're going to have to develop that. We've been working with Crowder as well here. They run a manufacturing program at their site here in Joplin. And actually they have about 10 or 11 high school students that will probably come our way once we get ours off the ground. So that will help us to get started. The goal when they put that center in was for us to be able to develop a program that will send students to them for post-secondary education. So we have met with them. We are going to work with them to be able to offer dual credit to our students that will lead into their advanced manufacturing program. We have met with a local manufacturer that wants to help sponsor in terms of equipment and things, but we're really in pretty good shape on equipment. We received probably in the neighborhood of $400,000 worth of equipment through the EDA grant a few years ago. And a lot of the equipment that's in that lab we can utilize in some other places too, but when we put it in there, it was really to develop this as a manufacturing lab. So that's one that's probably going to take us a couple years to really get the numbers where we'd love to see them. But the job that we're going to have for a new instructor in that is also to get out in the community, visit with business and industry, talk to students about manufacturing. We will probably do some pullouts from the student body to give students a chance to explore what manufacturing is like, because it's so diverse. You know, there's so many different things that they can do in the field, and no two manufacturers are the same on all the equipment they run that. And so this is really kind of one that's come to us really from the direction of business and industry, but something we feel we should provide.
That's kind of a weird question, I guess. So when my kids apply to college, one of the things that they say is they place 96% of their students in jobs upon graduation. Do we do that as well? I mean, so like our instructor goes out and builds relationship with the manufacturing businesses in the area. Do we then, as these kids go through our program or your program, do we help place them in jobs with those? Is that sort of an end
Yeah, and
result
that's
of the
another one of the hats
programs?
that Elsie wears, is working with job placement. Well, all of our instructors do, and we do a 6-month follow-up with all of our graduates. And we're usually in the 92 to 93% placement. And what Missouri considers positive placement is working related, going to school, and a lot of them are going to school. Probably at one time, over 70% of our graduates went on and furthered their education. Now it's more in the 55 to 60 range. We're seeing more students go directly to work now than we did probably 10 years ago. But yeah, that's one of the things we look at too for performance for programs is what's the placement look like. You know, it's one thing to get the training, but if we're training them for something that's not there, we need to aim differently.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a marketing, I would use that as a marketing tool for your programs too.
Another class that we're including in this manufacturing, there is a computer integrated manufacturing project lead the way class. And where we have the project lead the way engineering program, we're going to include that, send somebody for training in that, and that'll be embedded within the program as well, which a lot of different trainers that'll be used in this, and it's just, like I said, it just covers a lot of different areas. Other questions?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Elsie, for being here with us this evening and for describing what's going on at Franklin Tech. Do we have a motion to approve these classes?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Lori, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. We approve these course requests. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Exciting.
Human-centered design proposal. Dr. Moss.
Yes, under your pertinent facts, you have some history of how the board began to engage the work of Mark Manus with Opinion Research Specialist back in 2015. That was when Dr. Ritter was working to develop the strategic plan and take a deep dive into looks across our entire district. And as you know, a strategic plan was developed out of that, and we still operate from that strategic plan with minor modifications each year through our forums and input that we receive. So the board had asked me to take a look at when that was developed and some of the history of that, because at the same time, Dr. Ritter had recommended that it would be a good idea to set aside funds each year to go back and look and kind of do a checkup of climate and culture across the district and make sure that the things that we're doing are still relevant and resonating well with all our stakeholders. So that's what you have before you tonight. I contacted Mark. We discussed kind of maybe the best approach to that and what his services might entail. And so the proposal that you have before you has option 1, which is the human-centered design research. And then he goes on to articulate an option 2, which would also then include some climate and phone survey work in addition to the other pieces. Sometimes people are a little hesitant to trust the anonymity of a pure survey, so that would catch any of that hesitancy in the option 2. And administration is recommending that we utilize both services detailed in the proposal.
The total cost of that is $16,500?
Yes.
Which is cheaper than what we thought it would be.
Yes, I think at the time it was discussed that it could be around 25.
And so I guess before Jennifer asks, I will ask, is that in the budget anywhere?
It would cause a budget adjustment.
I'm a strong supporter of it. I think the information that we receive is valuable and it's done objectively. So.
Is Mark here by chance?
No.
No, okay.
And I support it as well, and I think it's important, and it's a small investment to protect our original investment, and I think that he did a really good job assessing our district and our needs, and I think that people felt the feedback I got from our employees about his initial study was that they really felt like they were listened to and that things were moving in the right direction. And I actually just finished a class on strategic human resources, and in that it talks about organizational development and that it's important when you make such a big change like we did that you follow it up and make sure and check in and make sure that what we did is still working, and if not, then tweak it and make changes to make sure that we continue to move forward. And I think that's really important. I think this is a small investment to make to protect that initial investment that we did make in the district. So
I think a follow-up question to that for me would be, what have we been doing as a district since then to gauge our culture? I'm sure we have things. I'm just curious, what have we done, and then have those things been effective? My assumption is they have been. But
when this was done initially, there were surveys that were used, and so we've had access to those surveys, and annually we have sent, and we just closed the window for the principal ones, to each campus for the principal ones, and that becomes part of the building system reviews and the evaluations that I conduct. And then also, last year Ashley did it, and this year it will be Sarah through her office, but we also send a stakeholder and a student satisfaction survey as well. So we've done those through our own blood, sweat, and tears, but with surveys that had been utilized in the past with Mark.
would you say they've been effective?
They've yielded positive results. We've analyzed those and looked at those each year.
Okay. And then that's my next question is, have any of those instruments that we've used, have they yielded something that would indicate that there is a culture concern within our district?
There's always areas that we feel like we can have improved, and when I've gone over systems reviews with our building principals, we look very closely at those, and they have been useful tools, because sometimes we do see an area and we brainstorm and talk about, okay, how can we make this better? And I've seen turnarounds. I know of one in particular, one area that had some concern last year, and you look at the results this year and it's much better.
Okay. And so that would be my concern, would be if we have something in place and we were doing surveys and interviewing and they're effective and they do yield some results and then we act upon those results, I'm not sure why we would want to spend money for someone else to come in to do something that we're already doing. That would be my concern, or one of my concerns.
Well, my rationale thinking about this and making this recommendation, because at first I was hesitant. I'll admit I was hesitant to spend those funds. But as I looked into it, as I visited with Mark, and as I thought about some of the things that we're questioning across our district, then I thought, it might be good to get an objective, different look. And I think that because of the positive history our employees have, as well as our parents and students with Mark, I think they'll be candid. And I think he's astute. And it might end up being surprising what some of those results are. So I would not be afraid of an objective third look.
Can we get an objective third look without paying that cost? So, for example, could we go to the teacher and parent forums that we have? Could we poll them? Could we go to surely we have advisory committees, faculty advisory committees in each building. Have we polled them? Is that something that we could do? And if those, provide some sort of, or shed a light on some inadequacies, then maybe we further invest in something. That would be a way that we could objectively find out if there are other concerns. Again, that would be a possible solution without spending that kind of money.
That's the question.
And is spending this money, is this something that's done yearly, or is this?
We haven't done it for the last couple of years, but it's an option. It's what Dr. Ritter had proposed at the time, that it be an annual expense. I don't know that it would be necessary that we do it every year. And I can't predict next year or the year after, but I wouldn't think we would necessarily have to do it annually. But that would be a decision of the board as well.
I think it's a good opportunity to just kind of do a temperature check to see. We made lots of changes 4 to 6 years ago, lots and lots of changes. And I think it's a good opportunity to just do a checkup on how we're doing, kind of neutral outside.
And I think his services were very valuable to us as a district and helped us figure out where to go. And he is objective, and it's what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, I would trust the I mean, we can poll a parent forum or a student forum, but putting that together and looking at it, I mean, you tend to, when you're looking at yourself, I think it's harder to look at yourself than for someone to come in and look at you and say, okay.
Be candid.
Right. Well, and just give you some things to think about that maybe, I don't know, a different perspective I think is always good. And you need to check in on those changes. We made some major changes. Good ones, really good ones. But
And I have no doubt the effectiveness of it. That's not what I'm questioning at all.
You gotta check on it.
My concern is, can we send out a survey that says, how has the culture changed in the last year? Has it improved? Has it stayed the same? Has it declined? If 75% or 90% or 100% say it's stayed the same or it's improved, I don't know why we reach out to someone to gauge the culture of our district, if those are the results that we could find on our own.
Okay, so
I think we've done some of that already.
We have.
And that's what I mean, we have, and Dr. Moss just said it's been effective, and we have found some things, and we've improved upon those. So I just don't see the connect, I don't see the need, I guess.
Well, so if your district, and I'm not being a smart aleck at all, if your district came to you and said, okay, fill out this survey, and it's given to you by your boss, basically, how honest are you going to be if you
I'm
don't
honest
have
every time, and maybe that's just me, but we get them all the time. We have surveys all the time that come across.
So,
and
but
we evaluate different components of our district.
Right, but you've got people who that's not always been the case. They've not felt that freedom to do that. And so, because what I hear is, we got a survey today. Do they realize that my name's going on this? I can't be honest. I can't say. I mean, and that's just what people say. That's sort of their initial feeling is it's being sent to me by the superintendent. I can't be honest. I can't, and it's not that they think, I think that they can't be honest with you. It's just that's sort of people's initial reaction rather than coming from someone, I guess, that doesn't control their employment.
I think the thing that has bothered me the most in that, and you touched on it, is when we send the surveys out, we're very careful to tell them it's anonymous. And they are anonymous. And I don't see whose email went back on that because that is toggled off. And it's disheartening to think that they can't trust that it's anonymous. I want their feedback, and I want their genuine feedback without reservation, or they're going to know I said this. But unfortunately, I do get those responses from time to time, and that in and of itself is worrisome to me.
I think that's a culture that predated you, though, and I think eventually time will take care of that, just not yet. Prior to you, just wasn't healthy. Well, yeah.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the district's recommendation to hire Mark Manis to
Assess current climate at Joplin schools.
Yep.
Second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori that we approve this request. Is there any further discussion?
I have another question. How do we define culture as a board? What would be some examples of what we would be looking for in this?
Well, how would you define it?
Well, I wrote down a list of a couple of things. So our financial status of our district has improved. I think that would improve the culture. Our school attendance has improved. Student population has improved. Insurance benefits and premiums have improved. Salaries, faculty retention, facilities improvement, technology, all of these have improved. Rigor in the classroom, community pride, those seem to all have improved. Those are some ways that I would define or describe the culture in our district. And I'm just wondering if there are some things out there. I'm not hearing of any. Maybe you guys are hearing something specifically, and maybe that's something we can have a conversation about. But if there's, I just don't see the need, if we can do it in-house, and if we're already doing it, why we would want to spend our money to get information that I think we, at least I can see that we're already doing. That's, so I don't know if there's other ways to define culture. I'm not sure. There probably are, but
I think
those were my
very
thoughts.
Good. No, I think it's all encompassing of that, plus other, just a general feeling of how open and honest teachers and staff and students and parents feel like they can be, and that they'll be listened to, and their comments will be taken, and changes will be made, along with all of those things that you mentioned, absolutely.
But in a 30-minute webinar, I could show the staff, they could create it themselves through SurveyMonkey, whatever that is. Or there's other options to use. But they could create a survey, they could send it out, and then they could get the results back, and they could see that you can't attach who did the survey to their responses.
Right.
And so they could gain some confidence in a 30-minute session rather than spending thousands of dollars trying to gain their trust and giving them, and trying to garner their honest opinions. So an in-service, a 30-minute in-service could do the same thing.
And I think that's why we have such a diverse board. But also, we all have our different opinions and different ways of reacting to this, and that's why we all have a vote.
I'm just not saying 35 total interviews involve up to 35. And this is on the Human Centered Design Group, number 3. On the number 2, are they doing, it says random phone survey. Is that every teacher, parent? I mean, for that kind of money, I don't see.
It'd be a random
Their
sample.
their community.
Yeah, what he does is he provides profiles of the different types of employees in terms of tenure, core course teacher. He's honed this for his whole career. So he provides profiles of the types of people he's going to talk to get the full picture. And then that goes through someone in the district then that helps to set those up. And through that, he can generalize to other populations. There's some science behind
there's got to be science, because it's hard. I would think it would be hard to generalize from, if you've got 1,000 employees and you only talk to 10 of them, to kind of figure out how things are going, is the way I'm reading it here. I mean,
right.
Maybe I'm wrong.
And I was initially skeptical as well. But after I met Mark, even before I came to work here, but I knew that I was coming to work here. And Dr. Ritter set up some appointments for me to visit with him. And I gained confidence in the process.
There's a certain percentage that makes it valid.
I don't know the accuracy, but it purports a 3% or less margin of error.
It's kind of like the Gallup
It's the data
poll.
analysis that you're paying for, too.
Yes.
The analyzing of the
And the
information.
reports.
And then the recommendations.
And I don't mean to make light of it, but it seems to me like it's kind of like a LifeLock commercial where your dental monitor or you're not actually doing anything. We're going to give some information. We still have to. It's not going to derive instruction, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not going to.
It could.
It could, yeah.
Well, I guess anything could, but yeah. Will it directly lead to a change in our culture, and does our culture need to change? So that's the last thing I'll say, but
thank you.
Thank you for.
I appreciate everyone's comments and their concerns. Good discussion. I realize that in my home, $16,500 would represent an enormous amount of money. This district, I believe, can afford a $16,500 investment of this nature if the board so inclines. So without a great burden, and I will vote based upon that belief. So we have a motion and a second. I ask that you vote.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to abstain.
Yes.
No.
And yes. Thank you, everyone. I know that that's a difficult issue. That brings us back to item F3, which is an adjustment to the health plan documents. Sarah Mwangi, I hope, will help us with that. That was her item on the consent agenda.
Yes, and my goal is to help us get out before 8, so I won't even.
We're gonna, we'll see.
And I'm not going to ask any questions.
Good job, Sarah.
There's a couple of things. You know, we went through a huge transition with our health plan and our health plan documents. One item that came up that we found discrepancy is the difference between the documents with our MetLife and the UMR documents for the medical. Under the UMR that went through the health plan committee, it did not cover domestic partner. We found on the MetLife side that it did. This will not impact any employee, but we would like to make that consistent between the two documents. So that's the first piece of that item. The second one is really a huge benefit for our employees with newborns or adoptions, where right now they have 30 days to make sure that they get their newborn or adopted child included in insurance coverage. And we would like to extend that and make the adjustment to the 90 days. Again, this would be a benefit for the hectic lives of the newborn within those first 4 weeks. And talking with Jamie, our broker, it is not uncommon for organizations and companies to go beyond that 30 days. So this would move from 30 days if you have a newborn or an adopted child, allowing you that 90 days to make sure that you get that child covered on your family plan. So those are the two pieces, and those just require amendments to be signed on our part for those to get corrected on the back end.
And you said, I guess I do have a question. You said that there's a I don't know if you said statutory, but there was a reason.
There's a House bill.
A health bill that did not go through our committee.
So the Health Plan Advisory Committee concluded their work prior to August 28th. On August 28th, House Bill 1413 took effect. And with that, there's been a lot of controversy and question as it relates to the different committees that are within a district. There's a lot of things going on with negotiations related to that. So it's made it really tricky as a district to figure out where those lines are to where we are not in any legal implications of conversations. So a lot of those things are still getting worked out and getting clarified. Those questions are coming up in a lot of districts right now.
And isn't there a current court case filed?
There is. There was actually there was something that happened last Friday, and Carrie and I just talked about that yesterday, that we have not heard an update from that, if that would be continuing or if an adjustment was made. So we should be hearing more about that.
Well, I move we make the adjustments to the health plan documents.
I'll second.
Both good reasons.
It's been moved by Dr. Fort and seconded by Derek that we make the adjustments to the health plan documents as proposed. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Sarah. That takes us to our plus deltas.
Well, I would like to submit that it is not 8 o'clock yet.
Someone's going to get to see their show at the end of it, the finale.
I just really appreciate the discussions that we can have, and everyone can get their voice out there.
Yeah, I actually want to thank Brent. It's been embarrassing, but he came with great stats, and as he was listing them, he was convincing me of his vote. Even though I didn't vote with him, it's good to know that we are making progress as a district. So,
well, and I would like to point out the, I'm trying to think of the proper word. Ambition comes to mind, but just that our Franklin Tech Center staff is so well represented, and that you guys are seizing opportunities and coming with open arms to our stakeholders and building on your programs.
absolutely. Franklin Tech and its human beings are awesome. No doubt about it.
Definitely.
Any deltas? There being none?
I will move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, and I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday
Absolutely.
season.
I'll email it.
I started to try to write
See you
out
next year.
two things.
See you next year.